All right, everybody, the markets are taking a bit of a dive this morning, and we've got a small cap Canadian stock, one that I've spoke on quite a bit on the channel, one that I've owned for quite a bit. I accumulated during this drawdown here in 2023, 2024, and it was looking to be quite a solid short-term return here on the run-up, but now the company is taking a bit of a dive this morning on some pretty alarming news, I would say. And I guess before I dive into the actual article, the one thing I will say for many investors who own this and you're sitting on the dip like this morning, there is nothing you could have done to foresee this. It was unpredictable. It has to do with a particular trust element with management. They should have disclosed some pretty important information that they didn't disclose. So now that it's coming to light right now, obviously investors are getting very scared. But I'm going to go over the report. I'm going to go over what I'm going to be doing with my shares, and I'm just going to discuss the issue with HealWell Health right now. So let's get right into the video. But before I do, remember 3 stocks in the description below. These are some of my favorite opportunities on the market today, directly from our premium platform, which is home to thousands of Canadian investors who are using it every day to become better investors. So that's down in the description, and it's absolutely free. So what happened with HealWell Health? Well, first off, the headline: HealWell Health announces delay in filing of annual audited financial statements due to matter related to U.S. subsidiary Circle Medical. So whenever we see a company that has to delay filing, this is never a good sign. It is usually a sign of some underlying issues. And the one thing is this isn't necessarily the core of HealWell Health's business. Circle Medical is a small portion of HealWell Health. This is a company that they acquired a few years ago in order to expand south of the border. Effectively, what is happening is Circle Medical is being investigated due to their billing practices, and they were required to report some documents by the end of March. So they had until March 31st, 2025 filing deadline for the required filings, and it has come out today that they cannot meet that requirement for the documents. They're actually asking for an extension to April 15th. So HealWell Health was supposed to report earnings. However, they cannot report earnings because of this issue. They have to get this situation with Circle Medical figured out before they can report earnings. So what is the main deal here? Well, the main issue and the reason why the stock is down, 20%, and at one point was down nearly 30%, in my opinion, is the trust element. This should have been disclosed when it was happening. We're talking back in September of 2024 is when this investigation started, and I follow HealWell Health quite a bit. We've covered it at premium for years, I believe when it was pretty much a penny stock, and there has been no real indication that Circle Medical was being investigated. I believe what this is causing is a where there's smoke, there's fire situation. Why did management not disclose this investigation back when it first started? People tend to get spooked with something like this. This could be a completely non-factor. Circle Medical could submit those documents. There could be no issues. The company could continue operating as normal. But if that was the case, why would the company not just report it back then? Which leads to a lot of situations where investors start to think, okay, there's probably issues with Circle Medical's billing practices. If not, they would have just submitted these documents on time and it would have been a non-issue. But even then, outside of Circle Medical, you run into the issue of why has management not disclosed this earlier? And because they didn't disclose something like this earlier, what else do they have, under the table? What else is going on here? That is a big uncertainty. And obviously when we're sitting on, major indexes taking a thrashing today, we got the NASDAQ down 2%, the S&P down 0.76. We got year to date, they're almost down 12 and 6%. When the markets are like this type of news is going to send a stock south big time. And the one thing is I believe if they would have just announced this back in September when it was happening, again, Circle Medical is not a huge chunk of HealWell Health's business. I think it's a single digit portion of revenue and EBITDA. So I believe the market probably would have sold off the stock, but I don't think it would be anywhere near this 21%. So when we continue back to the report here, the company, that being Well Health, does not expect the resolution of the matter to have a material impact on the company's cash position or available resources. This makes sense because Circle Medical is a fairly small portion of the business overall. And it says the company and Circle Medical are currently working diligently to finalize the company's annual consolidated financial statements at the earliest possible date. And then at that point, Well Health will probably be able to file earnings. So this is another thing that has spooked investors overall, just investors I've been talking with. And there's an impression here that Well Health is trying to cease the trading of its stock. This just really isn't the case. This is a management cease trade order. So effectively what this is, it's a rule that would stop only the company's top executives and directors, so management, from buying or selling the company stock. Like, you don't need to worry about the company ceasing trading. They're not seeking out a complete halt in its trading. What they're trying to do is get it so that management cannot buy or sell the stock on the news. So this prevents insider trading to a degree, and this also shows good faith, because in reality, what you could have is, if this was a non-issue, if there was going to be nothing wrong with Circle Medical and this news was a big nothing burger, I guess you could say, management could pretty much take advantage of this, 20-some% dip, buy a bunch of shares, and ultimately benefit when the company does release quarterly results. And then on the flip side, if there is issues here, this would prevent management from selling the company if they knew there was going to be underlying issues. So effectively, this management cease trade order is to stop management from being able to take advantage of the swings in the stock price, either to their benefit or their detriment, and kind of protect retail investors. So no, this is not going to be for you to not be able to buy or sell your shares. Outside of this, there is fears that if the company cannot get its financials in order, it will not meet obligations of many indexes, and in that case, it could be halted. Obviously, if a company is not keeping up with its financials, the indexes will halt it. It will not be able to trade. However, I do expect the company to get this figured out by April 15th. So they've effectively asked for a couple more weeks to get the situation resolved, and I do believe it will be resolved by then, and then we will see some underlying numbers when it comes to Well Health's overall operations. Now, what the company did, and a lot would say that this was to deter people from focusing on this report and instead focus on this report, the record patient visits and total healthcare interactions. However, I do believe they're doing this in an effort to just not keep people completely in the dark. As I mentioned, Well Health probably would have been expected to report earnings at some point this week or even potentially late last week, but now they can't until this Circle Medical situation gets sorted out. So what they did is they released kind of prelim patient visits and results. And we're looking at, more than 5.7 patient visits in fiscal 2024. That's year-over-year growth of 32%, driven mostly by organic growth of 30%. Their Canadian patient visits, 3.125 million, 35% growth, organic growth of 32%. And most of that organic growth did come from effectively same-store sales. They call it same clinic sales growth, but it is pre-existing clinics in Well Health's operations that are actually fueling the bulk of the growth. So we look to overall visits. We're looking at, Canadian visits up 32%, US up 28%, total visits up 30%. We're looking at, the bulk of the growth is organic. It's from the existing facilities, not exactly new facilities. So I think the company put this report out. I mean, I don't want to say it was intentionally released to offset this report, because I do believe that this probably would have been, it definitely would have been lumped in with Well Health's reported earnings. So they probably had something like this made up anyway. Did they probably put this together and release it in combination to kind of try to tell investors, hey, this is an issue, but our results are probably going to be strong because look at these? Yes. Again, we're dealing with Circle Medical, which represents not an immaterial portion of Well Health's business, but definitely a small position. And again, in my opinion, the stock really is dipping this much on that trust element. It's on that, element of why did the company not disclose this information back when this started, it probably would have dipped its share price back then, but it also, probably would have been a bit more well received over the long term, because now it just looks like they're hiding something. So another thing they released was their intention to effectively utilize their call rate and acquire HealWell AI. So HealWell is effectively an AI software platform that is primarily used to try to help doctors out in terms of early detection of diseases, things like that. So this is a company that Well Health will acquire in whole. It sounds like they'll have, I believe, nearly 70% of the voting shares. So this was another thing that was announced. It is a fairly strong acquisition. Ultimately, it's going to get buried under this news that they can't file earnings. I mean, that is a massive issue. And overall, it's a bit of a cluster this morning when it comes to Well Health. Now, what am I doing with my shares? I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm just holding the shares. I am not going to do anything until this situation gets resolved and Well Health ultimately is able to release its financial results. Do I expect that there is issues in Circle Medical? Yes. I can't imagine if there was no issues here that the company wouldn't have just voluntarily submitted the documents when it was asked back in September. Like, why has this taken this long? I believe what the company is being accused of to a certain degree is particular billing practices that are resulting in insurance coverage issues. Now, the full disclosure of any of this is not known. Like, I'm sorry, I can't really tell you what is going on in that regard because it's all kind of under the surface. Nobody knows, which is also why, because Well Health did not disclose this earlier, as I mentioned at the start of the video, there's really nothing you could have done as an individual investor to prevent an event like this. And this is why there is probably going to be some major trust issues when it comes to management moving forward. Even if the quarterly results are good, when the situation gets sorted out, quarterly results come out and they're, still strong, let's say, there's still going to be people who are probably very hesitant to buy this company based on the fact they did not disclose this information. I'm going to hold my shares. I want to see what earnings are like when they, probably mid-April now if they get this situation sorted out. And then from there, we're probably going to get some commentary in terms of management. They're probably going to discuss this on the MD&A, and we'll get an idea as to why they didn't report it earlier, what exactly the issues are, because ultimately they will have had to been resolved before Well Health can report earnings. And we'll see how this entire situation gets sorted out. But effectively, that's kind of all the news I have right now. So everybody, I really hope you liked the video. Head down below, like the video, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment, let me know what stock you want me to look at next. And remember, there is that report for 3 of my favorite stocks moving forward in 2025, and we'll see you next time for more great Canadian content.